Hey guys, okay, so to start off with, I'm going to be using a Maybelline Baby Skin Pore Filler, and I'm just warming that up on my fingertips and rubbing them together, then pressing it into the skin where I feel like my pores are a little bit enlarged. Here I'm going to be using the Lorac eyeshadow primer that I received as a sample with one of my purchases from them, and it's a good primer. I just happened to see it and decided that I would use it because it was the first thing that I saw. Next, I'm using the shade Camel from the Lorac Mega Pro palette, which is absolutely gorgeous, guys. If you guys have the option to um, stalk LoracCosmetics.com and purchase this palette, I strongly advise you to. It is a gorgeous palette and the shades are amazing, as well as the blending and the pigmentation and everything else. I could talk on and on about this palette because I love it. It is beautiful. Here I'm still continuing to buff that camel shade all over the lid pretty much, and then focusing it on the crease. Then here I am taking the shade Brown from that same Lorac Mega Pro palette and making sure that I am focusing a little bit more on the crease rather than going all over the lid like I did with that camel shade. The reason why I do it that way, the dimension comes where you add that darker color on top of a lighter color, but you have to be sure that when you're adding these darker colors that you're not completely covering up that lighter shade. It has to go somewhere in between where you can see that dimension. Or it's not going to make that big of a difference. Here I'm using the shade Orchid, and I'm using a Urban Decay flat shader brush just to get that all over the lid. Then I'm going back with the shade Mulberry from that same palette, and at first I choose to do just a little bit and kind of make it a little bit pink, but then I go back with my E40 blending brush and bam, I added a little bit more pink. I guess that's not just a little bit, that's a lot more pink, but that's the good thing about these shadows. You can always build them up. It doesn't just come out to a straight, hot, mulberry pink. It's buildable, which is always great because you end up getting more than one shade with each shadow. Here I'm getting the espresso color from that same palette and putting it on the crease, but focusing it even more in that crease. I'm placing it where I want it, and then I'm going back with my E40 blending brush to make sure that it's all gradient. If you feel like it's not blended and you have that E40 blending brush or any kind of blending brush, you don't have to add any product necessarily. Just go back and continue to go back and forth with that brush, and that's what will make a big difference. Um, Here I'm just continuing to do the same thing. Just go back and blend, 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 and making sure that it looks exactly how I want it to look. Next, I am taking the Maybelline foundation, the liquid to powder form. I think it's like Magic something. I'll list it down below, but I absolutely love this foundation, mainly because I am a dry person. So it usually, to me, benefits me a little bit more to use liquid, but I do like the matte look. And it's hard for us dry skin people to get a really good matte look because we're constantly having to moisturize. And I feel like a lot of the times any kind of moisturizing foundations will just give me a dewy look, which is fine because I don't want to be dry either. But I can never really find that happy medium, and I feel like this foundation gives me the happy medium of still hydrating my skin, but not giving me too much of a dewy look, because sometimes I really do like the matte look. Here I'm using the NW20 shade in the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. I'm distributing it by just little dots on my face, but I normally just squirt a pump on the back of my hand and put it where I want to be a little bit lighter. And guys, even if you don't like to be a lot lighter on your forehead or around the corners of your mouth or your chin, it is important to distribute some kind of color. So you don't have to put as much as I did. I like the highlighted and contoured look, but if you don't, then that's fine. You don't have to do it that way. Just know that it always is going to complement you more if you are distributing that concealer throughout your face and not just placing it under the eyes. Here I'm using the matte Chocolate Soleil bronzer in the shade medium, and I'm using a tapered highlighting brush to blend that in. This is one of my favorite brushes to do my bronzer with just because I never look muddy or cakey. It all just really blends in well. It's not very hard to make sure that it's all gradient looking. Another thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that if you don't have the right shade of bronzer and the bronzer is too dark, then that can make you look muddy. Some people believe that you can go to the drugstore and just buy any bronzer and it's fine. All bronzers are the same. That's not true. There are different shades and different undertones and different things that will complement certain people. If you don't have the right one, that's possibly what could kind of normally draw you away from contouring or bronzer because you don't have the right shade and it makes you either look orange or too muddy. So just try your best to try out a few different ones. I can use the dark shade and the medium shade. If I want more of a heavy contour, I use the dark shade. A more light shade or light contour, I would do the medium shade. And here I'm using the Opal Moonstone highlighter with an angle flat top kabuki on my high cheekbones. And then next I took the Clinique Plum Pop blush and just put that on the apples of my cheek with a blush brush by Sigma. And this is the Mulberry shade from the same palette. That's the shade that I used on the top of my lid, and I just placed it on the bottom lash line and grabbed a blending brush and just kind of buffed it out. Don't be scared to buff out that bottom lash line and to drag it down a little bit, because when you drag it down and you make it more smoky, that's what gives your eye a whole lot more of definition. It makes your eye seem a whole lot more open too. Here I'm using the Dip Brow Pomade by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it is in the shade Chocolate. And I just really honestly put one line on the top, one line on the bottom to define them, and then blend them out with that brush, as well as with that Maybelline Gel mascara. Then I am using Opal from the same Lorac Mega Pro palette, and I'm just putting that on my brow bone to highlight with. And this is the Chelsea Girl NARS Chubby Stick. I'm just putting that all over the lips. It's just kind of like a sheer pink. Then I am taking the Myth lipstick by MAC and dabbing that on there to make it a little bit more nude. And I don't remember the shade of this lip gloss, but I will list it down below in the description bar. And I am done. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye!